Hello, welcome to the Madre Foothills Recreation Area Management Plan public meeting. Next slide, please. Tonight's agenda includes some introductions, a brief presentation, a Q&A session where participants will be able to answer or ask questions and the BLM will provide responses to them, and a comment period. Each commenter gets a 2-minute time slot. The BLM will record these comments for the project record, and the public will still be able to email comments to the project folder until April 22nd. A quick note on the comment period or the comment session for this evening. We will not be answering any questions or responding to the comments during that time. Next slide, please. So tonight on this meeting, we have John Aslin, the Public Affairs Officer for the Southern Nevada District. He'll be facilitating this meeting tonight. We have Katrina Williams, the Field Manager for the Red Rock Sloan Field Office. Bridget Peregrino, Supervisory Park Ranger for Red Rock Canyon NCA. Kate Sorum, Outdoor Recreation Planner for Red Rock Canyon NCA. Noelle Crowley, Project Manager for AECOM. Ali Yemnitsky, the Public Engagement Specialist for AECOM. And both of those folks are part of the contracting team that's helped us develop the ramp NEA, and we'll be participating in the Q&A session as well. And my name is John Prescott. I'm the acting NCA manager and will be presenting tonight, but I'll turn it over to Katrina Williams to give a quick hello and thank you for coming.
Thank you, John. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual public meeting for the Madre Foothills Ramp and EA. Again, my name is Katrina Williams, and I'm the field manager for the BLM Red Rock Sloan Field Office. And I wanted to thank you all for joining us tonight. As John mentioned, we have a BLM presentation planned tonight, and afterwards, we look forward to the Q&A session. And we also look forward to hearing your comments, which are very important in the process for completing a recreation area management plan. And it's going to help the BLM make better site-specific management decisions and provide the public and recreation users with an enhanced recreation experience in the Red Rock Canyon National Conservation Area. So thank you again, and I will turn it back over to John.
Thank you, Katrina. Next slide, please. So a quick rehash on the project timeline. We hosted a 30-day public information gathering period from April 24th to May 25th, 2023, where we solicited the public's feedback on initial concerns and thoughts on where we should take this management plan. The BLM and AECOM worked together to then draft the plan. And we're here right now in the public comment period, which again goes until April 22nd. After the comment period, we will finalize the plan based on public comments, make any changes to the environmental assessment or the recreation area management plan as needed. We hope to sign a decision in June of this year, 2024, and eventually get into plan implementation based on project funding and staff time. Next slide, please. So why is a recreation area plan or ramp needed for the La Madre Foothills? The La Madre Foothills area had a long history of recreation, including off-highway use, equestrian, hiking, and mountain biking. In response to that, the city has built 2 trailheads adjacent to the project area outside of the Red Rock Canyon NCA on the cliff shadows, off of cliff shadows. But the BLM never formally designated any of those trails for use. We've all seen the continued development and rapid growth of Las Vegas, going right up to the boundary of Red Rock Canyon. And the purpose of this ramp is for the BLM to have a long-term vision and commitment for improved day use recreation, public access, and natural resource protection. Next slide, please. Quick overview of the planning area. It's 13,500 acres. We've documented 59 miles of motorized routes, 52 miles of non-motorized trails. And again, there are those 2 trailheads managed by the city of Las Vegas. Next slide, please. So these maps show where the project area is within the greater Red Rock Canyon National Conservation Area. You'll notice that the planning area excludes the La Madre Mountain Wilderness, and that's because the La Madre Mountain Wilderness is managed by the Rainbow Mountain and La Madre Mountain Wilderness Management Plan signed in 2013. And that plan takes precedent over any other land use management planning that we would be doing in here tonight. Next slide. So we have two guiding principles that informed our development of the ramp. The first one really gets to the heart of remaining consistent with the Red Rock Canyon Resource Management Plan and the designating legislation, which is to protect the various resource values within the NCA, including wilderness, wildlife, cultural and historical values, and recreation. Managing recreation as a resource within Red Rock does mean balancing recreation use with resource protection and the other natural and cultural values within the NCA. As I mentioned earlier, the rapid growth is putting increasing pressure on the NCA and the resources within it. Part of our goal here tonight was to make sure that we have sustainable recreation use and provide access to the NCA while that development is occurring. Next slide. So we have these issues that were developed largely through the 30-day public information gathering period, internal discussions, and ongoing meetings with recreation partners in the community, developers adjacent to the planning area, and the City of Las Vegas Planning Department. So these issues touch on retaining public access, sustainable recreation use, addressing unsanctioned trail development, managing for and enhancing wilderness character, wildlife, and archaeological resource values, managing for motorized recreation use, and managing recreation opportunities for diverse user groups. Next slide. So really, during this comment period, we're asking the public to provide feedback on essentially two documents. The first one being the Recreation Area Management Plan, and the second one being the associated environmental analysis that proposes the implementation actions to achieve the goals and objectives that are outlined in the Recreation Area Management Plan. The ramp can be found in Appendix B of that larger document that's available online. And our BLM Recreation Planning Handbooks require ramps to address 4 topics, including management, administration, and regulatory actions, information and education, monitoring, enforcement, and adaptive management. Next slide. One component of the management field is motorized recreation. So our goals with managing for motorized use within the La Madre Foothills zone is to focus on connectivity to the Harris Springs and Kyle Canyon area where we do have existing designated OHV opportunities, to create loop opportunities that provide access to scenic viewpoints, to create sustainable access and parking off of the West Tropical Parkway, and to draw use away from the planned developments at Sky Canyon and West Summerlin, as well as draw motorized use away from the wilderness areas. The map that you see on the screen was developed in partnership with the Vegas Valley Four-Wheelers and other OHV groups in the area to identify priority routes that these groups would like to see made formally designated for use. Red Rock Canyon is designated as an OHV limited area, which means that OHV use is allowed only on designated roads and otherwise designated washes. The OHV routes would be marked with signage and post and cable fencing or other barriers to show which routes are open and which ones would be closed. Next slide. Another part of the management field in the ramp is to address non-motorized recreation. We've coordinated with the Southern Nevada Mountain Bike Association and looked at the entire trail network that we've had inventoried so far in this La Madre Foothills area, proposing to designate 47 miles of those existing non-motorized trails, including 7 miles of reroutes. And the focus again is on sustainability, technical challenge, and retaining the remote feel and the overall characteristic and trail experience that we heard from the public that is so important to them when they go and visit this area. We do want to improve usability and sustainability of these trails, so that 7 miles of reroutes is addressing particularly steep or unsustainable trail sections that potentially need additional trail reinforcements or need to avoid sensitive cultural sites. Part of this access is part of this proposed sustainable access is to develop a trailhead off of West Lake Mead Boulevard. And this is in partnership with the Howard Hughes Corporation. So this area has traditionally been one of the third informal access point for users of this trail network. And we're hoping to retain that access in partnership with them through as they continue to develop West Summerlin. You'll notice on the map that there is a highlighted trail development zone in the northern part of the planning area. And that's in partnership with a proposed park that's being developed by Century Communities at the end of Iron Mountain Parkway. And there are some existing mapped trails in that area. So we are planning on investigating that area further for more non-motorized trail access. Next slide. Other components in the management field and the ramp include dispersed camping above 5,000 feet. And in this map, you can see where that is. There aren't many opportunities for that. The Red Rock RMP, again, this is consistent with the Red Rock RMP and the designating legislation. Managing for equestrian use on designated trails and washes, looking to enhance and create opportunities for adaptive recreation, including motorized wheelchairs and hand cycles, and to also manage rock climbing a little bit better in this zone. The La Madre Foothills is an increasingly popular limestone climbing destination, especially after wet weather in Red Rock, where the public is discouraged from climbing on the soft and brittle sandstone. We're proposing to continue to allow rock climbing here, and with the objective of identifying preferred access trails to the climbing areas, improving them and making them more sustainable, and concentrating public use to those trails to minimize damage and trail braiding in the area. One of those goals is to plan and analyze for access to remote climbing areas that are harder to get to, one of them being an area known as Waterworld. Next slide, please. The next field in the ramp is addresses administration and regulatory actions. So these restrictions are again consistent with the RMP and the designated legislation, including a restriction on target shooting, dispersed camping under 5,000 feet, restricting class 2 non-pedal assist e-bikes and or full throttle e-bike use on the non-motorized trails, restricting campfires, keeping OHV use to only designated washes or roads, restricting dumping, and addressing and removing trail features constructed with foreign or imported materials such as wood, concrete, metal, anything like that. Next slide. Sorry. The next part of this administration and regulatory actions is to address incursions in the wilderness area of the La Madre Mountain Wilderness. You can see where we have some mechanized trail use that goes into the La Madre Mountains and some motorized roads that go into the wilderness area. We would be looking to better mark the wilderness boundary, reroute trails that go into the wilderness, around the wilderness, reroute motorized use away from the wilderness as well, and restore those roads and trails to a natural condition using a variety of techniques. Next slide. Information and education is another section addressed in the ramp. This includes largely installing signage along the designated roads and trails and the areas proposed for restoration and closure. One of these signs that we're hoping to install would be trail access information signs that aid adaptive recreation access and provide a better idea for visitors of what to expect on any given trail. So you can see an example of a trail access information sign on the slide there. The typical information that's included on these signs are the trail name or trail or road name, the designated uses, the average grade, the average cross slope, the average tread width, the average surface stability and type, and the average and maximum size of the obstructions that one might encounter on the trails. And again, looking to better demarcate the wilderness boundaries. So there are fewer of those unintended incursions into the wilderness area. Next slide. The last section of the ramp addresses monitoring, enforcement, and adaptive management, which boils down to the BLM continually assessing resource conditions, public needs, and the effectiveness of our proposed management strategies and making changes to those as needed to continue to improve the quality of the resource conditions out there as well as the visitor experience. Part of this monitoring strategy includes utilizing volunteer labor. We have a very strong friends group at Red Rock, and we have a lot of registered volunteers that are willing to help do trail monitoring as well as help with trail maintenance. Planning on increasing BLM presence with the potential of creating a contact station on West Tropical Parkway in conjunction with the city planning department. And again, to continue to evaluate the need for additional trails, reroutes, closures, and connectivity. As use in this area changes, visitation increases, and expectations of the public change. Next slide. So just a recap on everything that we went over. The Recreation Area Management Plan defines the planning goals and objectives related to visitor use, resource protection, and access. And again, it's setting the long-term management strategies in place for the BLM to follow for the next 5, 10, 15 years. The environmental assessment considers the potential impacts of designating existing roads and trails for public use, closures and restoration efforts, adding signage to designated recreation features, and developing parking and trailheads as a way to achieve those management goals and objectives that are outlined in the Recreation Area Management Plan. So the EA evaluates a range of possibilities and options in order to compare the potential impacts of our proposed actions. So the first one being the no action alternative, which is to continue managing this area as usual, which has been very hands-off. There would be no road or trail designations or closures. There would be no additional facilities, signage, or access points proposed for the La Madre Foothills area. Alternative B, the proposed action, is essentially what I outlined tonight and what is largely outlined in the Recreation Area Management Plan, which is to designate some existing roads and trails for use, proposing trailheads at West Lake Mead Boulevard and West Tropical Parkway, restoring and rerouting unsustainable roads and trails, and including adding signage and interpretation to the area. The third alternative C, looks at designating all of the existing roads and trails for use. There would be no restoration or closures of any of the existing roads or trails on the landscape right now. And it would also look at designating trailheads. Next slide. So now we'll move into the Q&A session. Again, this is where you have the chance to ask your questions to the BLM, and we will either answer them live or respond to them in the chat box. If you are feeling shy or have a more specific question that you would like answered more in depth, you can always email your question to the BLM project webpage, which is the BLM_Nevada_Red Rock Canyon NCA_LMF RAMP at blm.gov. So with that, we'll start fielding questions.
Hi, I'm John Aslin. I'm going to help facilitate you through the Q&A section and also the comment section. So down at the bottom of your screen, there's a little Q&A button. If you click on that Q&A button, a thing will pop up and you can type in your questions there. And as questions get in and we've organized them for the answers, you'll start getting live answers. Some will get typed in questions or answers as well. Remember, this is for the La Madre Foothills Recreation Area Management Plan. So we're not answering questions about other areas of Red Rock Canyon or other BLM areas that are in the state or the country. So if you could just keep those questions down to the La Madre Foothills area and the Recreation Area Management Plan, that would be great. So go ahead and type your questions in the Q&A box. I see that they're popping up here, and we'll start answering them soon. Thank you.
So we have one question, first question from an anonymous attendee. The question is, what will be done to stop motorized vehicles from traveling on closed routes? From what I've experienced, OHVs frequently drive right over the current closure signage in the Kyle Canyon area. And that's a good point. A lot of it's going to have to come down to, some of it is going to have to come down to self-policing within the community. Other options include installing large immovable boulders and installing large immovable pogies or fencing to keep OHVs off of closed routes. Next question from an anonymous attendee is, what is the proposed funding for option B? And that's a great question. Again, this is still just a proposed plan. When we get to project implementation, we will know more how we're proposing to fund these projects. But there are vehicles available. The Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act is a land sale program through the Bureau of Land Management that has funding available for federal agencies to apply to implement projects such as this. Ed Price asks a good question. Why were non-motorized trails excluded at the West Tropical Parkway trailhead from alternative B and C? There are low gradient illegal fans adjacent to future subdivisions that seem most appropriate for low noise, non-motorized travel. That's a great question. So right now, what is shown in the ramp and in the maps is entirely based on existing inventoried roads and trails. We are working with the city of Las Vegas to consider non-motorized trails in that area off of West Tropical Parkway, but at this time we don't have anything to show. So it's not entirely off the table, but right now we're proposing to designate what's existing and currently on the ground. Question from Curtis Hyde is the area directly above Hickman and Cliff Shadows going to be developed into homes? Trail name is Jenny from the Block. Will that remain open? I can't speak to the future development plans in that area. I am familiar with that trail though, and we will want to consider rerouting portions of any trail or road that we're hoping to remain open off of private property and entirely onto BLM to ensure that access on that trail is retained. Matthew Roberts asks a question. What would a BLM contact station on West Tropical look like from a footprint / operational perspective? Really good question. So the city of Las Vegas has actually retained a 20-acre parcel right on the border of Red Rock Canyon NCA at the end of West Tropical Parkway, shortly after the pavement ends. Again, that entire parcel is off of Red Rock Canyon. So from a footprint perspective, it's still in development, and it's not clear what exactly anything is going to look like there yet. But again, it is a 20-acre parcel that they've reserved for some kind of park, contact station, trailhead, something like that. Anonymous attendee asks, what would cause you to limit climbing development within the La Madre Foothills area? What would cause you to limit climbing access to the La Madre Foothills area? Great question. Limitations to climbing development are entirely resource driven, where if we notice that there is a lot of climbing development occurring in a very sensitive habitat, sensitive cultural site, or heavy bolting occurring within wilderness, which again is outside of this planning area description, that's when the BLM will start to consider with limitations to climbing access and development in that area. Other things that we do really want to consider are sustainable access to the climbing walls back there. So rather than supporting trails that go straight up the hillsides and turn into erosion problems, we would look at potentially hardening some trails, creating more sustainable routes to get to the climbing areas, focusing traffic on durable surfaces like exposed rock, things like that. Donald Carley asks a funding question. Does BLM have funds approved to implement any changes? At this time, no. An anonymous attendee is asking, what will be done over current dumping and shooting? This is near Eagle Mountain, so it may be in the La Madre Wilderness area, but it's right next to the recreation area. I'm not familiar with Eagle Mountain, but the current dumping and shooting is an ongoing issue that the BLM is trying to address. There's only so much monitoring, or there's only so much enforcement that our law capacity that our law enforcement rangers have, with so many other safety concerns going on in the Las Vegas Valley in which they patrol. They can only get so far, but we are developing stronger partnerships with Las Vegas Metro PD and other volunteer groups to monitor these areas for dumping and illegal shooting. And what we're doing right now is continually going out and restoring the signage that we have in place in certain places that informs the restriction of shooting and dumping. And we have a very strong volunteer contingent that loves to help clean up these areas. An anonymous attendee asks, will road access extend to the recreation area off of West Tropical Parkway? It currently ends at the washout area on that road. I would encourage this person to send an email, send this question into the project email with maybe maps or GPS locations for what they mean. But yes, we are proposing to allow vehicle access off of West Tropical Parkway onto the dirt roads, the Jeep roads, and that extend around the wilderness into Harris Springs and Kyle Canyon. Anonymous attendee asks, it looks like there are a lot of red trails on the proposal. From my understanding, this is closing existing routes. Is it not possible to protect all existing on BLM land? That's one of the proposals. Like I mentioned in the environmental assessment, we're analyzing kind of two extremes and a middle ground. One extreme is us not doing anything, the no action alternative. The other extreme is designating all of the existing roads and trails that are out there for use. And the middle ground is the proposed action alternative B, and what is largely informed by the recreation area management plan. Eugene Clayton asks a question. Would all foreign structures be removed at the Burbs trails under all three plans or just B and C? It's a good question, Eugene. The proposed removal of those structures would be only under alternative B. Alternative C would just adopt all of the trails, all of the roads in their current condition and make no modifications to them. Curtis Hyde asks, will there be opportunities for NICA youth mountain bike races in the future within the ramp? Potentially. So the ramp and the environmental assessment are remaining silent on special recreation permits and deferring that to Red Rock Canyon's existing management process for special recreation permits, which allows competitive events on designated trails. So is the opportunity available? Yes. Pending the designation of the existing trails in the planning area. Yep. Filippo Ferruzzi asks a similar question. Will any SRP or ATV, UTV tours be available for the LMF area? Again, the recreation area management plan is not making any decisions specifically about available special recreation permits. So whatever special recreation permit that would be allowed, such a competitive event, commercial operation, guided tours, things like that, would be managed by the existing Red Rock Canyon analysis and resource management plan that speaks on the SRP process. Anonymous attendee asks, will access require use of the reservation system and entry fee similar to the scenic drive? Will the area be gated with open/closed hours? There is currently no proposal to make a reservation or fee system for the La Madre Foothills area. The open and closed hours, again, there's no proposal for the entire area to be open or closed, except for, again, camping is not allowed below 5,000 feet within the entire planning area. Anonymous attendee asks, What determines which proposal is selected, and is there an action that can be taken to ensure the proposal that adopts all trails that are existing to be selected? Determination is based on the analysis that comes out of the environmental assessment. And by that, I mean what it considers the impacts to known resources of all of the alternatives. So hypothetically, if the analysis in the EA shows that designating all of the roads and trails within the existing roads and trails within the planning area is consistent with the Red Rock Canyon resource management plan, the designating legislation, consistent with other natural resource laws, the Wilderness Act, things like that, then the potential is certainly there. Question from Donald Carley. Why remove existing signs made from native material found in the area with metal non-native materials? That's a great question, Donald, and something that we can consider more once we get to that implementation phase of adding signage to the designated roads and trails. But to answer your question, signs would be removed at this time because none of those trails are designated, and any installed feature out there is an unauthorized feature, essentially. So that's why existing signage would be removed at this time. Anonymous attendee asks, why plans B and C proposed if no funds are available? It sounds like plan A is the best for hiking and mountain bike users. So again, this recreation area management plan isn't intended to be implemented immediately, right? This is a long-term vision. It's a long-term management strategy for this area. The goals and objectives that are proposed here will be implemented as funding allows and as workload and workload priorities allow. And to your second question, sounds like plan A is the best for mountain biking and mountain bike use. If that is the alternative that you would like to see move forward in the environmental assessment, then please do make that comment in the during this comment window. Again, the comment email address is currently on the screen: BLM_NV_RRCNCA_LMFRAMP@blm.gov. Submit your comment there and tell us why, tell us why you think that is the best alternative, and let us know if we're what we haven't considered in the current analysis. Anonymous attendee asks, is there work that can be done preemptively to ensure existing trails are in compliance with regulations to ensure they won't be closed? The short answer is no, because none of those trails are currently designated. The longer, more complex answer would be to come to the table and participate with the BLM and the Southern Nevada Mountain Bike Association to talk about what trails you might have in mind. And if there are specific concerns, we can add that into the proposed action here and hope to take action. But again, the best course of action for anonymous attendee would be to reach out to the BLM, reach out to the Southern Nevada Mountain Bike Association, and participate actively in this process. Donald Carley asks, so with Plan A, we continue to enjoy the area as usual. Kind of a loaded question, because we do know there are resource conflicts out there that we would have to address. So again, like the incursions to wilderness, we would have to address that because we're legally bound by the Wilderness Act. Some of the impacts to known cultural sites, we would have to address that because we are legally bound by the Archaeological and Resource Protection Act. But again, the no action alternative does propose management as usual. Matthew Roberts asks, roughly when is the environmental assessment expected to be complete? I understand it may be funding / priority dependent, but what would you estimate? We're hoping to have a decision signed in June of this year.
So those are great questions, and we still have time. Yep, we still have time for more questions. So if you have more questions, please type them in. These have been outstanding questions, and they're actually helpful for us as well. So if you have any more questions, please type them in.
See, a great question by anonymous attendee. What determines if trails are accessible to e-bikes? There's a trail assessment process that we go through that looks at potential safety concerns and other trail characteristics that we would consider in designating these trails, non-motorized trails, as open to e-bikes. But again, the current proposal is to allow class 1 and 3 e-bikes on any designated non-motorized trail. Of course, e-bikes are also allowed on any designated road where other motorized vehicles are allowed. Question from anonymous attendee is, where can we find the map of trails that are proposed to be closed versus designated? That map was on display earlier in the slideshow. It's available in the environmental assessment, I believe in chapter 2, and it's also available in the recreation area management plan itself in appendix B.
We still have about 15 minutes left for questions. So if you have any questions, please type them in. Thanks. Oh, there's one.
Anonymous attendee asks, when you're working on hardening, hiking, and access trails, do you accept volunteer organizations? How would an organization offer its resources? Yes, we absolutely accept volunteer help. We have several active recreation groups in the valley that we have very strong partnerships with, one of them being the Southern Nevada Mountain Biking Association, the other one being the Southern Nevada Climbers Coalition. Any other volunteer group that wants to participate in trail maintenance in the NCA is strongly encouraged to reach out to us at the BLM. Also, please coordinate with our friends group, the Friends of Red Rock Canyon. The Friends of Red Rock currently has a 200 plus person volunteer roster of people that help us do all kinds of projects throughout the NCA. Question from Rachel Lewison. Can you please explain the order of operations for submitting comments? Is it choosing option A, B, or C, and why, or do we just submit comments? It's all of the above. If you have a preference for one of the alternatives, please tell us why that is. Again, comments we're kind of looking for are substantive that offer some kind of direct feedback on the analysis that we've provided, offer alternative solutions to addressing the management issues that we've brought up that we're trying to address through the recreation area management plan. So it's not necessarily a vote, but we are looking for in-depth feedback on the alternatives and proposed plans. Question from anonymous attendee: where will updates of this process be found? Is it possible to post the link in this forum? Yes, this meeting is recorded. There is also a public facing web page on the NEPA register, and our AECom contractors have developed a public facing web page that includes updates for this process.
So I'll wait 2 more minutes and see if any more questions come up. If they don't, then we'll go into the public comment period. Also, we'll have that link in a couple of minutes for the AECom website that John just talked about, and I'll put that up in the chat area where I'm putting the other links.
Question from Filippo Ferruzzi. asking, is a map of the designated off-road trails for motorized activities already available? Yes, it is. It's what was shown in the presentation tonight. So that map is available in chapter 2 of the environmental assessment. It's also shown in the recreation area management plan itself, which is in appendix B. Thank you.
And I've been posting all those links in the chat. So the e-planning link is the one where you'll find the draft ramp. So, oh, the AECOM one is behind a password firewall. Let me check with the AECOM folks. But the other links, the e-planning, you should be able to get directly to that, as well as the email address. They're working to disable that password right now, so keep that saved there. It doesn't look like we're getting any more questions, so we'll move on to the public comment period. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so we're looking for substantive comments that present new information or data that we missed, suggest an alternative management actions or solutions, and offer constructive feedback on the ramp or associated EA. Those are the things that help us. And like I talked about before, this is for the La Madre Foothills Recreation Area Management Plan. It's not for other areas. So if you could keep to that, those would be helpful comments. And it'll help us move forward with this plan. Can I get the next slide, please? Okay, just a couple of rules here. We have a 2-minute timer. I'm going to call off names first in order that you registered for folks that said they were going to that they'd like to provide comment. When I call your name, can you raise your hand? Because that'll move you to the top of the list. And it's easy for me to find. Then I'll allow you to talk, and then I'll tell you you're ready to unmute, and then you can go forward. There's a 2-minute timer. Please try to keep it to that. After we get through the group of people who registered ahead saying they wanted to comment, then I'll open it up for folks who didn't say they wanted to comment on there. And then I'll just open it up for just raise your hands, and then I'll just pick you in order as we go down. After we get through everybody providing getting at least a chance to give one comment, if we have time, then I'll roll back and see if anyone wants to add additional comment. A couple of the rules here are 2-minute timer. Please try to keep it underneath 2 minutes. If you go a little bit too much over, then if you go too much over, I'll have to stop you. Please be respectful of others. Don't attack somebody else's comment. Just please be respectful, and please no profanity. If that happens, then I'll have to mute you and cut you off. So, and also if you're not being respectful to others. So let's get started with Peter Foley. Are you here? If you're here, please raise your hand. No? Donald Carley, I know you're here. If you'd like to comment, please raise your hand. Donald, would you like to comment? Are you still here? Okay, we can come back to you if you decide later you want to comment. Chris Armstrong, are you here? No, no Chris Armstrong. Okay, Mark Boldock. If you're here and like to provide a comment, please raise your hand. No, Mark. Okay, next. I'm muted, am I? Okay, no. Matthew DeFalco, are you here? Would you like to provide comment? Please raise your hand. Okay, we'll move to the next one. Gabe Lewis, if you'd like to provide comment, please raise. Oh, Donald's here, so we'll get to Donald first because he was there before. Okay, Donald, can you unmute yourself? Oh, you're still muted, Donald. And I still have you muted, or you're still muted. You're able to unmute. Okay, Donald, we're going to move on to Gabe until you get that worked out. Okay, Gabe, you can unmute now.
Hi. Good evening.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead and unmute yourself and start over again, Gabe.
Unmuting again.
Okay, there you go.
Hi, thanks. Good evening, everyone. Local climber, local biker. I've lived in Las Vegas long enough to go through this BLM dog and pony show several times for the Calico Basin ramp and the godforsaken reservation system and several other times. And it really feels like BLM doesn't listen to the public outcry during these meetings, to the comments in the emails or the vocal folks that are online. It really feels like BLM's made up their mind and just do these as their legal obligation and don't actually listen, which is a little bit frustrating. I do think BLM has somewhat of a moral obligation to make up for all the number of years that the previous Red Rock manager, Josh Travers, just absolutely limited the development of climbing and biking. There's potential for world-class mountain biking. It already is world-class rock climbing, but there's zero enforcement. Every time I go out, there's so much litter, there's graffiti, there's no signage at all, pretty much. I think a large part of what's happening is people don't actually know that they have to pick up their trash, or they can't fly drones, or just stay on the trail, or, oh my God, the scenic road is 2 lanes wide. I heard John say that you often replace the signs. I've never seen that. I've seen many signs that you can't really read. And over the years I've been there, Vegas has exploded in size. Hurricane Hillary closed essentially all of Charleston last year, and it's forced so many people to smaller and smaller areas. And there's so much that could be done to reduce the amount of garbage and the eroded trails. I know BLM and the Forest Service understaffed, underfunded, but there's lots of people who would love to help. If you respond to our emails, many of mine have just gone completely unresponded, or ideas that got knocked aside from people I've talked with. It would be great if we could actually build new trails, get the established climbing routes, instead of just erasing them, to get them permanently funded. So thank you so much. That's all I have. Bye.
Thank you, Gabe. Donald, let's try to get you unmuted again. Any luck, Donald? Okay. Unfortunately, I don't think I can unmute you. No, I can't unmute you. You have to unmute yourself. I can send you a thing that says, asks you to unmute, but I cannot unmute you. Okay. So, Donald, we'll keep trying you, but we're going to move on to some other folks here. Melvin Morales, are you here? Melvin, raise your hand if you're here. I don't see you. The list's getting smaller so I can see better now. How about Christine? And I'm sorry if I get this wrong. Urgatino? I also don't see you here. Christine, if you're here, please raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to move on. Another person who I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, but Cinna Hunter, or if you want to talk, please, or want to provide comment, please raise your hand. Actually, I see you, so I can just allow you to talk. Cinna, you can unmute now if you'd like.
Good evening. I have to say that my screen has been blank this entire time. All I've had is the audio. So I haven't seen any of the slides to really comment, truthfully. So I'm here, I've been listening. I am a visual person. I would have enjoyed seeing the slides. I already requested that the presentation please be emailed to me. And I just don't feel that I have enough visual information in my head to kind of make a comment. However, I do feel that I was the anonymous person who asked about the reservation system and the fee system. I personally don't think that's worked all that well for the scenic loop. And since Red Rock Canyon, the $2 reservation fee is an outside vendor. Red Rock Canyon isn't even benefiting from receiving those fees for the people that make the reservations. The lines are still very long. I volunteer, I do Loop Ambassador for Friends and the BLM. And the parking is still atrocious. People park, they leave garbage there. I thought with the fees and the reservation system that would be alleviated somewhat, and there'd be more enforcement so people didn't leave their trash there. And I don't see it much better. Well, actually, that's not true. On the trails, it is better, except for the dog poop bags, which people, I guess, think that the sanitation trucks are going to roll out there and pick them up. But it's tough on the volunteers as well, because we can't necessarily get out in those areas to pick things up for people. So I'm a little bit concerned that with the development of the La Madre Foothills area, that it is going to be unmanageable. So I guess that's my comment without having seen all the slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Cinna. We're going to move on to, Donald, if at any point you can unmute, go ahead and unmute, but don't start talking if somebody else is talking, because I can see if you've gone on mute. So we're going to move on to the next person. Chelsea Atwell, are you here? I don't see you. Okay, let's move on to Curtis Hyde. Curtis, are you here? Curtis, I also don't see you. Allison Cormier, I saw you earlier. Are you still here? Nope, don't see Allison anymore. Jen Hanks. Jen, you're here. Okay, Jen, you can unmute now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, sure can.
Great. My name is Jen Hanks. I'm the Southern Nevada Mountain Bike Association Vice President. First, I'd like to say thank you for holding this public meeting and considering the community's input for the future of the La Madre Foothills. SIMBA appreciates all of the work the BLM has put into this proposed plan, and we are excited about the future of the area. We also appreciate all the thoughtful comments from the community. It really helps us as an organization to best represent the community. As you all know, the La Madre Foothills is a very popular place to ride mountain bikes. It's affectionately known to locals as the Burbs. SIMBA appreciates the BLM's proposal to manage existing trails, and we will be providing more specific comments in writing. In the meantime, SIMBA does encourage the public to reach out to us. We welcome our community suggestions. Also, we encourage the public to provide their individual comments either right now or in writing to the BLM. Again, thank you for all the work that's gone into this. That's it.
Thank you, Jen. We are going to move on to Christian Lucas. Are you here? I don't see you. Ed Price, are you still here? Yes, you are. Ed, you can unmute yourself and provide comment.
Yes, I appreciate the previous comments. I just wanted to thank the BLM and people who input in this program for including adaptive trails in the system. Adaptive trails are trails that allow people with mobility issues like myself to participate in mountain biking. And so we appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. So that was everybody on the list. Is there anyone who didn't make if you didn't make do the registration and put in yes, you can raise your hand now and I'll grab you in order. And it looks like our first one is Matthew Roberts. Matthew, go ahead and unmute yourself and you can give your comment.
Hey there, good evening, everyone. I just want to say I appreciate both the Johns for answering and fielding the questions. I think you guys did a good job. I'll keep it short, but just want to say I support proposal B, and I have a few constructive comments for you guys. I think right now in the area, and then I would extend it to Red Rock in general, there could really be more signs around and better details on those signs, or maybe larger decals for things that people should see, be they, non-motorized use, or your pet should be on a leash, things like that. Also, I very rarely see enforcement presence around Red Rock and the broader area. So I understand that, people are one of the most expensive parts of the process, and there can't always be a BLM or law enforcement ranger around. And I think that having more signs helps educate people, or keeps them in line a little bit better, and it's a cheaper way to do so. So without overwhelming people with the amount of signs, more signs in the area, just as this area is developed, I think could help keep people educated and help them understand why the rules are in place and what things are important for everyone. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Next is Filippo. You can unmute yourself and start talking.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Filippo Ferruzzi. I am the manager of Best ATV Tours Las Vegas. We hold a 5-year SRP in Nelson Hills, which is, of course, in another part of the city. But I just wanted to highlight the importance of issuing or planning to issue SRPs for motorized off-road tours in the La Madre Foothills area, because we believe that will be probably the best way to rule and monitor motorized activity, and also to somehow partner with the SRP holders to provide feedback on what is actually really going on in that area, since most likely SRP holders will be operating in that area daily. So they could be the eyes of the BLM that, for obvious reason, cannot be there every day. This is something that we already do with the responsible BLM office for the area where we have the SRP at. So since apparently off-road motorized activity could become an issue if it's not already an issue in that area, I think SRPs and partnering with the SRP holders could be a way to go to monitor and rule activity in that area, especially if there's somebody who is not, let's say, riding according to the rule. It's littering, which is very, unfortunately, very common by private riders, of course, not by SRP holders. So just wanted to highlight the fact that planning to issue some SRPs for that area would probably help, instead of actually damaging the area like somebody else might think, but it could probably help the development of that area in a more sustainable way, at least when it comes to motorized activities.
Thank you, Filippo. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment right now? Just raise your hand. Give you a couple minutes here. Gabe, let's let other folks get a chance. We can go back to you if within a couple minutes no one else has raised their hand. Okay, I don't see anyone else. So if you would like another go around and you've already made a comment, go ahead and raise your hand now and I'll take you in order. Gabe. Oh, you can, oh, there you go. You can unmute yourself now.
Hi, yeah, I'm sure I could talk for a long time, but just the one additional point I didn't get in my 2 minutes earlier is that it seems to be a race between the mountain bikers and developers in Las Vegas, and bikers keep building new trails. Sure, they're not really legal, and then the developers come and just bulldoze it down. And from what I have seen, it takes too many years and too much paperwork to legally develop new trails or new zones through BLM. So people have skipped that process and just started building them on their own. And if there was a way to work with Simba or work with other folks to make it a quicker, expedited way to build new trails, if there's some sort of NEPA loophole, I don't know, that's above me. It seems like people aren't even trying to go through the legal loopholes because it takes 4 or 5 years before you even hear back to get approval from the trails. And by then it's kind of too late and there's been 100,000 new homes added to Howard Hughes. So if we could speed up that way, I think it would help spread people out, especially as folks are just getting more concentrated to fewer and fewer zones as Las Vegas sprawls. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Gabe. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a comment? Even if you've already made a comment, want to go around again? Okay, we will be here until 8 o'clock in case new folks want to come in and make a comment, or in case someone decides later on who's in here right now would like to make a comment. So we will be here. So just raise your hand if you want to. Gabe, you're the only one who can't raise your hand. You're the only one who got 2 here. And Donald, I'm sorry that you weren't ever able to unmute, but you can, I just put in the chat again where you can email your comment, or also you can do it through the e-planning website and hit the participate now button on the left column. Also in there is the ramp. So you can go, the draft ramp, so you can go in there and review that as well. And then the recording for this meeting will go up on YouTube within the next couple of days, and then we'll provide a link on the probably I'll send it over to AECOM and they can put it up on their webpage. Also, you can just go to youtube.com/ or just do a search for BLM Nevada, and that'll take you to the BLM Nevada YouTube page, and that's where we post the videos.
do want to say thank you all for attending and participating in tonight's public meeting. We really look forward to receiving more comments through the email and through the e-planning webpage. We will be here until 8 o'clock. So if anybody does sign on late, or if you do think of a comment that you want to make live, we will be fielding those through 8 o'clock. Thank you and have a good night.
And again, we'll be here till 8 p.m. if anyone wants to provide a voice comment. Just raise your hand. Thanks. It doesn't look like we're going to have any more commenters tonight. So we're just about at 8 o'clock. I don't have enough time left for a comment. So I just want to thank everybody who came out tonight and thank you for participating. Good night.